Hello dear listeners. Welcome to your channel. This is the summary for Sabbath School Lesson 13 for the fourth quarter of the year 2025. Thank you for liking this video and sharing it with your friends and acquaintances. The title of this lesson is, Choose This Day. The memory text is found in the book of Joshua chapter 24 verse 15. And if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. At the end of this lesson you will listen to the song related to this verse. Dear listeners, the final chapter of Joshua brings us to a solemn and deeply meaningful moment in Israel's history. Joshua, now advanced in years and standing near the end of his life, gathers the nation one last time, not for battle, not for conquest, but for decision. This is not the announcement of a new covenant, but a renewal of an existing one, framed in the familiar structure of ancient covenant treaties. God identifies himself as the covenant Lord, recalls his mighty acts, calls for exclusive loyalty, sets before the people the consequences of faithfulness or rebellion, and establishes witnesses to the decision being made. What makes this moment especially powerful is the context. Israel is settled. The land is theirs. The battles are largely over. Now the real test begins. Not whether they can conquer with swords, but whether they can remain faithful in peace. Joshua reminds them that they do not need a human king. Yahweh Himself is their king. Their future security depends not on armies or rulers, but on daily, intentional loyalty to the Lord. The lesson opens with a timeless truth. Every generation must choose for itself whom it will serve. Faith cannot be inherited. Commitment cannot be assumed. Each heart must answer the call anew. Sunday lesson. You were there. Joshua gathers all Israel at Shechem, a place heavy with sacred memory. This is where Abraham first received God's promise of the land and built an altar of worship. Now, centuries later, Israel stands in that same location with the promise fulfilled. The geography itself becomes part of the sermon. God has been faithful from the very beginning. Joshua recounts Israel's history, but the focus is striking. God is the main actor. Over and over, the Lord says, I took, I gave, I sent, I delivered, I brought you out. Israel is not praised for strength or wisdom. They are reminded that their existence as a nation is entirely the result of divine grace. Had God not intervened, they would still be idol worshippers like their ancestors. Joshua deliberately blurs the line between past and present generations. Though most of those listening had not personally experienced the Exodus, Joshua speaks as if they were there. This is because covenant history is shared history. God's past acts are not distant stories. They are meant to shape present faith and responsibility. The message is clear. What God has done before obligates faithfulness now. Gratitude becomes the foundation for obedience, and corporate responsibility reminds the people that individual choices affect the entire community. Monday lesson. In sincerity and truth. Joshua's appeal reaches its heart. Fear the Lord, serve Him in sincerity and in truth. Israel must decide whether they will live as God's distinct people or dissolve into the surrounding cultures through idolatry and compromise. The choice is real, and the outcome will define their identity. To fear the Lord does not mean terror, but reverent awe, a deep awareness of God's holiness and authority. It is the recognition that God is not only loving Father but also sovereign King. This reverence naturally leads to obedience, not as burden but as response. Serving God, in sincerity, speaks of wholeness and integrity, the kind once required of sacrificial offerings. Serving Him, in truth, points to faithfulness, constancy, and reliability, the very qualities God Himself displays. Joshua is calling Israel to reflect God's character in their devotion, not merely through outward compliance but through inward consistency. This kind of service cannot be half-hearted or distracted. It requires gratitude-driven loyalty, the same relationship-based devotion that believers today are called to have with Christ. True faith is not mechanical obedience. It is wholehearted allegiance rooted in love. What does it mean to you to serve the Lord in sincerity and in truth? What are some of the distracting factors in your life that prevent your full devotion to God? Tuesday lesson. free to serve. Joshua respects the people's freedom. He does not coerce loyalty or manipulate emotion. The repeated emphasis on choice underscores a profound truth. Love and faithfulness must be voluntary. Israel responds enthusiastically, affirming that the God who delivered their ancestors is now their God. They promise exclusive service. Yet Joshua's reaction is unexpected. Instead of celebrating, he warns them sternly. He knows Israel's history. He has seen how quickly promises can fade when convenience, fear, or desire intervene. Joshua wants them to understand that serving God is not a casual commitment. It reshapes everything. Blessings are real, but so are the consequences of rebellion. Forgiveness is not something to be presumed upon. It is an act of grace, not entitlement. Most importantly, Joshua emphasizes that Israel cannot serve God in their own strength. Obedience is not rule-keeping alone. It flows from a living relationship with the God who first redeemed them. True service begins not with human resolve, but with divine grace. Wednesday lesson. The dangers of idolatry. The threat of idolatry is not a theoretical one. Earlier, on the plains of Moab, in a similar context, Moses asked for the same decision. The gods that are in view now are not the ones of Egypt or those beyond the river, but they are found among them. Therefore, Joshua pleads with his people to incline their hearts to the Lord. Despite Israel's confident promises, Joshua presses the issue again: remove the foreign gods among you. This reveals a sobering reality. Idolatry is not a distant threat. It exists within the community itself. Joshua calls the people to incline their hearts toward the Lord, to bend, to intentionally turn their inner lives toward Him. The human heart does not naturally lean toward God. Left on its own drifts, faithfulness requires deliberate, repeated choices. The people respond by saying, "We will listen to His voice." This language highlights relationship rather than ritual. God desires conversation, trust, and attentiveness, not cold legalism. Yet, strikingly, the chapter never records the actual removal of the idols. The silence is intentional, leaving the story unfinished. The message extends beyond Joshua's generation. Every Christian is invited to answer the same question: will you truly act on your promises? Grace covers failure, but grace never removes the call to choose again. Thursday lesson. Finishing well. The book of Joshua ends with death and burial, but also with fulfillment and hope. Joshua, Eleazar the high priest, and Joseph's bones are laid to rest in the land God promised. The wandering is over. The promise has become reality. This closing scene links past, present, and future. God has been faithful to every generation so far, but the future now rests in the hands of those who remain. Faithfulness cannot be preserved in monuments alone. It must be renewed in lives. The lesson reminds us that God's people are always one generation away from spiritual decline. A faithful leader cannot guarantee faithful successors. Each generation must answer the covenant call personally. Joshua finished well because his loyalty never wavered. Like Paul centuries later, he fought the good fight. The question now turns inward. What choices must we make today to finish with the same assurance? Friday lesson. Further thought. Ellen Golden White highlights the danger Joshua recognized: hidden idolatry masked by outward religion. Many professed loyalty, but their hearts remained divided. Joshua's final appeal was not about formality but transformation. The covenant was recorded, and a stone was set up as a witness, not because God needed reminders, but because people do. The stone symbolized accountability to future generations, reminding them that God's words had been spoken and heard. The lesson closes by returning to the central truth: faith is always a choice. Love cannot be forced. Loyalty cannot be inherited. Each heart must decide, again and again, whom it will serve. And so, like Israel at Shechem, like Joshua at the end of his journey, the call still echoes today. Choose this day. God bless you.
And if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. But as for choose for yourselves.